Police Operational Procedures. Chapter 1. General Principles. Regardless of the type of function to be performed, and/or police operations to be conducted, all PNP personnel must know by heart, and shall comply with, and apply the following principles and procedures. Rule 1. Functions of a police officer. 1. To serve and protect. The responsibility of every police officer is to serve the public, and protect life and property. No police operation shall be conducted, in order to serve or protect the illegal activity of a particular person, group or criminal syndicate. 2. To observe human rights, and dignity of person. All PNP personnel shall respect the human rights, and dignity of the suspects, during police operations. Rule 2. Police uniform, attire and accessories. 1. Agency prescribed uniform. A police officer shall always wear the agency prescribed uniform, which is appropriate for the kind of police operation to be undertaken. 2. Appearing before the public. When wearing the police uniform, a police officer shall, at all times, appear presentable, smart and well-groomed. While on actual patrol duties, he shall refrain from eating along the sidewalks, smoking, and reading newspapers. 3. Carrying of police notebook, pen, and Miranda warning card. Every police officer on patrol, whether on board a vehicle or on foot patrol, must always carry with him a police notebook, a pen, and the Miranda warning card. The notebook, which is approximately pocket-sized, will be used to inscribe important events that transpire during his tour of duty. General Principles. 4. Carrying of non-lethal weapon in the police rig. Every police officer shall carry in his prescribed rig a non-lethal weapon, pepper spray, baton, or stun gun, which shall be primarily used in a non-armed confrontation with an incooperative and unruly offender during the arrest. Rule 3. Categories of police operations. Police operations are categorized as follows. 1. Public safety operation. Includes search, rescue, and retrieval operations, fire drills, earthquake drills, and similar operations that promote public safety. 2. Law enforcement operation. Includes service of warrant of arrest, implementation of search warrant, enforcement of visatorial powers of the Chief Philippine National Police, and unit commanders, anti-illegal drugs operation, anti-illegal gambling operations, anti-illegal logging operations, anti-illegal fishing operations, anti-carnapping operations, anti-kidnapping operations, anti-cyber crime operations, and similar operations that are conducted to enforce laws, statutes, executive orders, and ordinances. 3. Internal security operation. Includes counter-insurgency operations, counter-terrorist operations, and similar operations that are conducted to ensure internal security. 4. Special police operation. Includes checkpoint operation, roadblock operation, civil disturbance management operation, police assistance in the enforcement of demolition eviction injunction, and similar orders, police assistance in the implementation of final court order, an order from quasi-judicial bodies, hostage situation, visit board search and seizure onboard marine vessels, and similar police operations that are conducted by police units with specialized training on the peculiarity of the mission or purpose. 5. Intelligence operation. Includes surveillance operation, counterintelligence, intelligence research, intelligence assessment, and similar police intelligence operation conducted to gather information related to security, public safety and order. 6. Investigation operation. Includes investigation of crime or incident, administrative investigation, and similar investigative work necessary to determine facts and circumstances for filing cases, criminally or administratively. 7. Scene of the crime operation (SOCO). Includes the processing of crime scene, technical, and forensic examination of evidences, and similar scientific investigative assistance. Chapter 2. Operational Procedures. Rule 4. Pre-operational clearance. No police operation shall be conducted without the approval of the Chief Commander, head of the concerned police unit. A pre-operational clearance shall be filed by the team leader of the operating team prior to the conduct of the operation and shall be approved by the concerned police unit commander. This clearance shall be submitted to the Operations Section, Division of the concerned police unit for record purposes. Rule 5. Inter-unit coordination. 1. Personal coordination or by official representative. Team leaders TL of local police units operating outside their territorial jurisdiction and national support units NSUs shall coordinate, personally or through an official representative, with the police regional, provincial or city police office within whose jurisdiction the operation is to be conducted. 2. Coordination by filing coordination form. Prior to the launching of the operation, except in cases where the formal, in writing inter-unit coordination cannot be made due to the nature and/or urgency of the situation such as, but not limited to, cross-jurisdictional pursuit operations, coordination should be made formally using the prescribed coordination form, which shall be filed with the concerned operations center of the police regional, provincial or city office. 3. Coordination by practical, available means of communication. In cases where formal inter-unit coordination is not feasible, the police unit concerned shall endeavor to notify the territorial police office through any practical, available means of communication at any time during the operation and, if not possible, shall accomplish and furnish the territorial police office a written incident report immediately after the termination of the operation. Rule 6. Requirements of police operations. 1. Basic requirements. Police operations, like arrest, search and seizure, checkpoint, roadblocks, demolition and civil disturbance management shall be conducted as follows. A. With a marked police vehicle. B. Led by a police commissioned officer (PCO). And C. With personnel in prescribed police uniform or attire. 2. Use of megaphones and similar instruments. During actual police intervention operations, the team leader shall use peaceful means including the use of megaphones or any other similar instruments to warn or influence the offender or suspects to stop and/or peacefully give up. 3. Warning shots prohibited. The police shall not use warning shots during police intervention operations. Rule 7. Use of force during police operations. 1. Use of excessive force prohibited. The excessive use of force during police operation is prohibited. However, in the lawful performance of duty, a police officer may use necessary force to accomplish his mandated tasks of enforcing the law and maintaining peace and order. 2. Issuance of verbal warning. The police officer must first issue a verbal warning before he could use force against an offender. As far as practicable, the verbal warning shall be in the dialect that is known to the offender or in the national language. Basically, the verbal warning shall consist of the following: the police officer identifying himself, his intention, and what he wants the offender to do. If the offender is a foreigner, the verbal warning shall be done in the English language followed by a demonstrative act of the police officer's intent. The verbal warning shall be done in a loud and clear manner. 3. Non-issuance of verbal warning when excusable. The failure to issue a verbal warning is excusable in cases where threat to life or property is already imminent, and there is no other option but to use force to subdue the offender. 4. Use of non-lethal weapon. When suspect is violent or threatening, and that less physical measures have been tried and deemed inappropriate. A more extreme, but non-deadly measure can be used such as baton, truncheon, pepper spray, stun gun and other non-lethal weapon to bring the suspect under control or effect an arrest. 5. Application of necessary and reasonable force. During confrontation with an armed offender, only such necessary and reasonable force should be applied as would be sufficient to overcome the resistance put up by the offender, subdue the clear and imminent danger posed by him, or to justify the force act under the principles of self-defense, defense of relative, or defense of stranger. 6. Factors to consider in the reasonableness of the force employed. A police officer, however, is not required to afford offender attacking him the opportunity for a fair or equal struggle. The reasonableness of the force employed will depend upon the number of aggressors, nature and characteristic of the weapon used, physical condition, size and other circumstances to include the place and occasion of the assault. The police officer is given the sound discretion to consider these factors in employing reasonable force. 7. Responsibility of the police officer in charge of the operation. The police officer who is in charge of the operation shall, at all times, exercise control over all police personnel in the area of operation, and shall exhaust all possible means to apply the necessary and reasonable force to protect lives and properties during armed confrontation. Rule 8. Use of firearm during police operations. 1. Use of firearm when justified. The use of firearm is justified if the offender poses imminent danger of causing death or injury to the police officer or other persons. The use of firearm is also justified under the doctrines of self-defense, defense of a relative, and defense of a stranger. However, one who resorts to self-defense must face a real threat on his life, and the peril sought to be avoided must be actual, imminent and real. Unlawful aggression should be present for self-defense to be considered as a justifying circumstance. 2. Firing at moving vehicles prohibited, but with exceptions. A moving vehicle shall not be fired upon except when its occupants pose imminent danger of causing death or injury to the police officer or any other person, and that the use of firearm does not create a danger to the public and outweighs the likely benefits of its non-use. 3. Parameters to be considered in firing at moving vehicles. In firing at a moving vehicle, the following parameters should be considered. The intent of the suspects to harm the police officer or other persons. The capability of the suspect to harm with certainty the police officer or other persons. And accessibility or the proximity of the suspects from the police officer and other persons. 4. Filing of an incident report after the use of firearm. A police officer who fires his service firearm or weapon during a confrontation with an offender or offenders must submit an incident report outlining the circumstances necessitating the use of his firearm. 5. Procedures after an armed confrontation. Immediately after an armed confrontation, the officer who is in charge of the operation shall a. Secure the site of confrontation. B. Take photographs. C. Check whether the situation still poses imminent danger. D. Evacuate the wounded to the nearest hospital. E. Ensure that all persons who died on the spot are not moved from their original position. F. Arrested suspects should be kept in isolation. G. Conduct debriefing on all involved PNP operatives. H. Submit after operations report. And I. Ensure psychological stress counseling for all involved PNP operatives. Rule 9. Patrol procedures. 1. Patrol guidelines. A. Observe precautionary measures and personal safety while on patrol. B. Observe defensive driving and follow traffic rules and regulations. C. Select routes which provide best visibility. D. Patrol members must be always on the lookout for indications of vices and other illegal activities on their beat. E. Patrol members must be knowledgeable of all conditions, events and details of places on their beat. F. Be observant of people, places, situations or conditions and develop a suspicious attitude especially if the subject appears to be slightly out of the ordinary. G. Keep under close observation actions of juveniles, troublemakers, agitators and the mentally ill, retarded persons. H. Be familiar, as much as possible, with known criminals, ex-convicts residing in or frequenting the patrol beat. I. Be familiar with stay-in employees of business establishments on your beat. J. Be on the alert for loiterers. K. Keep watch on uninhabited homes. L. Observe the practice of shaking doors of unguarded business establishments during night patrol. Check for signs of intrusion. M. Establish good rapport with the people on your beat. N. Develop contacts by getting to know as many people as possible who can give factual information about crime conditions on the patrol beat. O. Use tact and persuasiveness when conducting spot inquiry or questioning individuals for information. P. When requiring identification from a suspicious person or any individual. Avoid taking the wallet or bag in which the cards, documents are placed. Let the individual remove and hand them to you. Q. When checking suspicious persons, places, buildings, establishments and vehicles, especially during night time, be prepared to use your service firearm. Flashlight should be held tightly away from the body to avoid making you a possible target. R. Patrol members should avoid loitering in theaters, restaurants and other recreational places. 2. Duties of patrol supervisors. In any operation, careful planning is a must, in order to avoid waste of time, effort and resources. Make a patrol plan with the following details. 1. Area coverage, safe haven, ambush areas and crime-prone areas. 2. Organizational detail of personnel. 3. Duration. 4. Standby points. And 5. Route plan. B. Designate and select the members of the patrol teams. C. Inspect the members of the patrol for completeness of uniforms, operational readiness and all government-issued equipment, firearms, mobile car, radio, and others, to ensure that these are well maintained and properly used by the patrol officer. D. Conduct briefing prior to dispatch, by disseminating any orders, directives or instructions from the Chief of Police or higher authorities and new policy or guidelines being implemented by the PNP organization. E. Remind the patrol team about the strict observance of the PNP operational procedures. F. Strictly observe buddy system during the patrol operations. G. Render hourly report of location and situation through radio, telephone, cell phone to Police Community Precinct, PCP, Station Headquarters and Tactical Operations Center. H. Render after patrol report, duly signed by detailed personnel. PCP commanders shall collate and submit significant details to the station patrol supervisor, who in turn will submit the same to the provincial, district patrol supervisor. And I. Conduct debriefing after the patrol to assess its conduct and make necessary corrective measures on defects noted. 3. Duties of patrol officer. A. Attend the roll call formation before his tour of duty for briefing and likewise attend the after tour of duty formation for debriefing. B. Patrol the assigned beats, observe and check suspicious people, structures, buildings, compounds and vehicles. C. Observe and monitor public gatherings, prevent disorders and disperse unlawful assemblies. D. Inspect and/or conduct surveillance in various business establishments and other installations and remove hazards to public safety. E. Check suspicious vehicles, private, public, or commercial delivery vehicles, along the main roads, highways in the course of their patrol. F. Report occurrences and conditions which relate to crime, public peace, order and safety. G. Prevent crimes and arrest cited law violators, assuring the public that peace is preserved. H. Conduct regular visitations, dialogues, consultations with the residents and other stakeholders. I. Assist personnel of responsible agencies unit in facilitating the flow of traffic at busy intersections roads within his area of responsibility AOR. Assist and provide pedestrian information such as directions and street locations. J. Enforce city municipal ordinances on liquor establishments and night clubs, cabarets and all houses of ill repute. K. Respond to calls, entertain complaints, initiate the investigation and protection of the scene, and minimize the after effects of accidents, fires and other catastrophes. L. Patrol officers shall wear the prescribed patrol uniform. M. Patrol officers must have the equipment necessary in the performance of their duty. 4. Guidelines and procedures, when responding to calls for police assistance. A. Gather and note down in the patrol officer's logbook all available data as to the nature of the calls, date, time and name of the caller. It may be regular, urgent or emergency in nature. B. The manner of approach will be dependent on the nature of the call, either with haste, secrecy or without flashing lights and sirens. C. Consider the pertinent factors like the time, traffic conditions, the possibility of greater damage and the neighborhood characteristics. D. Stop the patrol car some distance from the scene. E. Approach the scene on foot, in complete silence, and exercising extreme caution. F. Immediately attend to the injured, unless the other members of the patrol are in immediate danger. G. Focus all efforts to arrest criminals. However, priority shall be given to aiding the injured. H. Determine the crime committed. Identify and question briefly the victim, complainant and possible witnesses at the scene. I. If the suspects or criminals have fled the scene before the arrival of the patrol team, immediately relay the composition, armament, appearance, and mode of direction of escape of the suspects to the operations center. For the conduct of dragnet operations. J. When responding to street fights, brawls, the patrol member should call for backup before intervening. If there are no injuries and insufficient corroborative statements obtained to identify who started the fight, disperse the crowd and make complete notes. K. Never treat calls or complaints of loud noises caused by barking dogs, drunks, appliances, and parties as negligible or a nuisance. They only need courteous and tactful intervention and not enforcement actions. L. When responding to calls for police assistance due to planted or found explosives, never attempt to handle, move or lift the object. Instead contact Operations Center and request for Explosive Ordnance Disposal Team (EODT). Onlookers must be promptly led to a safe distance away from the scene. M. When responding to calls from owners of beerhouses, bars or inns, or any other similar establishments, during night time, request the owner to put the lights on first before entering the establishments. N. Do not attempt to arbitrate and resolve conflicts, differences between neighbors, landlords, tenants, husband and wife. Rule 10. Spot checks accosting, and pat-down searches. 1. Grounds for spot check search. A. Spot check accosting. The police officer may stop an individual for the purpose of conducting a spot check accosting only when reasonable suspicion exists. Reasonable suspicion must be more than just a hunch or feeling. In justifying the stop, the police officer must be able to point to specific facts that, when taken together with rational inferences, reasonably warrant the stop. Such facts include, but are not limited to, the following. 1. The appearance or demeanor of the individual suggests that he is part of a criminal enterprise, or is engaged in a criminal act. 2. The actions of the individual suggest that he is engaged in a criminal activity. 3. Questionable presence of the individual in the area. 4. The subject is carrying a suspicious object. 5. The suspect's clothing bulges in a manner that suggests he is carrying a weapon. 6. The suspect has been found in the time and place proximate to an alleged crime. 7. The police officer has knowledge of the suspect, prior criminal record or involvement in criminal activity. 8. The individual flees at the sight of a police officer. B. Body frisk, pat-down search. A police officer has the right to perform a pat-down search if the individual has been legitimately stopped with reasonable suspicion, and when the police officer has reason to believe that the individual possesses weapon on his person and poses a threat to the police officers or another person's safety. Circumstances which may justify pat-down search. 1. The type of crime believed to be committed by the subject, particularly crimes of violence where the threat of use or use of deadly weapon is involved. 2. where the police officer handles several suspects. 3. The time of the day and the location where the pat-down search took place. 4. Prior knowledge by the police officer of the suspect's use of force and/or propensity to carry deadly weapons. 5. The appearance and demeanor of the suspect. 6. Visual indications suggesting that the suspect is carrying a firearm or other deadly weapon. 7. Whenever possible, pat-down searches should be performed by police officers of the same gender. Procedures and guidelines. A. Spot check accosting. 1. When approaching the individual, the police officer shall clearly identify himself as a police officer. If not in uniform, the police officer must identify himself by announcing his identity and displaying official identification card and/or badge. 2. Police officers shall be courteous at all times, but maintain caution and remain vigilant for suspicious movements, like attempting to retrieve weapon, conceal or discard contraband, or other similar actions. 3. Before approaching more than one individual, police officers should determine whether the circumstances warrant a request for backup, and whether the spot check accosting can and should be delayed until such backup arrives. 4. Police officers shall confine their questions as to the person's identity, place of residence, and other inquiries necessary to resolve the police officer's suspicion. However, in no instance shall a police officer hold a person longer than the period reasonably necessary to be able to make these limited inquiries and to resolve suspicions. 5. Police officers are not required to inform the person of his rights under the law, example, Miranda warning and anti-torture law, unless the person is placed under arrest. B. Body frisk, pat-down search. When reasonable suspicion justifies a pat-down search, the search should be performed with due caution, restraint, and sensitivity. Pat-down searches should be conducted in the following manner. 1. Whenever possible, pat-down searches should be conducted by at least 2 police officers, one to perform the search, while the other provides protective cover. 2. Because pat-down searches are cursory in nature, they should be performed with the suspect in a standing position, or with hands placed against a stationary object, and feet spread apart. However, should an officer visually observe a weapon, a more secure search position may be used, like the prone, lying face-down position. 3. In a pat-down search, officers are permitted only to feel the outer clothing of the suspect. Police officers may not place their hands inside the pockets of the subject's clothing, unless they feel an object that could probably be a weapon, such as a gun, knife, club, or the like. 4. If the suspect is carrying an object such as a handbag, suitcase, briefcase, sack, or other similar items that may conceal a weapon, the police officer should not open the item, but instead put it in a place out of the suspect's reach. 5. If the external padding of the suspect's clothing fails to disclose evidence of a weapon, no further search may be made. If a weapon is found in the possession of which amounts to a violation of the law, the police officer shall arrest the suspect and conduct a complete search of his person. Reporting after the spot check, accosting or pat-down search. If after conducting a spot check, accosting or pat-down search, the police officer has no basis for making an arrest, he should record the facts of such spot check, accosting or pat-down search and forward a report to the appropriate authority. If the spot check, accosting or pat-down search gives a justification for a valid warrantless arrest, then an arrest shall be made. This presentation is prepared by Police Staff Sergeant Marlon Fernandez Anyabeza.